Hello and welcome. I had not realised that it's that time of year in the UK where Easter is celebrated, which is highly significant because it is about resurrection. That I find very interesting because there is a beauty in timing. But before I get on to talking about time, something I'd like to go over again. I'm often asked, where do the ideas come from? Certainly some of it is what you would call spiritual downloads. Another part is conversations with an interaction with other living beings. So a recap on last Wednesday is a perfect example. All day I was in not the most pleasant of moods, but nothing I could pinpoint it to, so I just thought, well, it's astral influences. But in a conversation with Lana A. Labonte, and shout out to her channel, I would seriously recommend anybody listening, especially to her videos where she gives her personal experiences in relation to books that she's read that have been a big influence on her life. But one of the things she said was that often when we have a day that we would say it's a shitty day, for example, what really is going on there? It's because there is internal changes, there is a spiritual upgrade taking place, but now you're in a feeling of discomfort because it is something unknown, it is something new that you haven't experienced before, or not quite in that way. So it's like physical food. Allow things to digest and settle, and reflected in the sky. Yesterday and even today there's been these rain showers, so it's passing clouds, but then comes sunshine and blue skies, although you can't see it on the video. It is actually sunny, but it's behind the cloud at the moment, but there's blue skies up there. That actually came really quick from that feeling of discomfort on Wednesday to the way Thursday unfolded, which I've already spoken about on the last video and the preceding one to that. Something else I really love is when I am given the opportunity to, what's the word I'm looking for here? Reciprocate, I suppose. So shout out to Martin Leaker. One of the most popular videos, or most viewed videos on this channel, came from something I said, to which Martin said it was on the tip of his tongue, and I just came out with it. That was in regard to pass the silver collection plate in a church. Think of it in terms of energetic collection. So the reciprocal exchange here, I recall that he would say, instead of saying the word brain, would say the word Brian. Excuse me. So, brain, let's just have a look at that from the etymological standpoint. B-R-A-I-N. Well, look what's in the sort of in the middle of that. So you've got AI. You've also got encoded in that is B, implying duality, and being. Be-Ra, in. So be the sun god within oneself, the inner standing of oneself. But then because we are in a photo-negative reality, switch the A and the I round and you get brain. Can we see any other evidence of this? Yes, is the answer. The famous Monty Python film, The Life of Brain, or The Life of Brian. The culmination of that film, it's the song sung by Eric Idle, always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the right side of life, always look on the bright side of death. What is that really saying? Well, Brain and Brian. Brian is the personification of the brain in this context. It alludes to something that is also shown, or it's in the song, "Don't you step on my blue suede shoes." Well, how many times have you heard that and you think of suede shoes? But suede. The colour blue is referencing the divine feminine, the subconscious, effectively, inside us, the right side of the brain. So, don't you step on my blue, my divine feminine, that is swayed over. It's the divine feminine is like the ever-loving wife, the infinite supply that will respond to the left conscious side of the brain, its counterpart hemisphere, which can act like a tyrant. And so how often do we say, I want this, I want that? What does the subconscious really hear? It doesn't know the difference between good and bad, so it will hear, I want. That's what it will give you more of, that feeling of want, because that is what is being interpreted across when we don't learn the internal language, the one language that we all need to come to terms with to understand. Hence, part of that language was what happened on Wednesday. Why am I feeling in not such a good mood? What is it that's causing this? It's because this internal change is going on, and appropriately the timing of everything with it being Easter. So, time. How many times have you heard, it's often in a game with children, I spy with my little eye something that begins with T. What is it? Can you point to it? You can point to examples that express it, but you can't really see it as such. And that T that the little eye spies, of course, is time. Now, if you were to show me a digital clock, particularly the older ones, yes, you can see the numbers, but do you also see some very disconnected straight lines that the mind will then put, say, 2 vertical lines and will interpret it as the figure 1? But it is and it isn't at the same time. It's duality. But if we go back to the analog clock, let's look at the clock face. You'll notice you have 3 hands there. There is hour hand, the hour hand. You have the minute hand, which is also the minute hand because the devil is in the detail. And then going round even quicker than that is the second hand, which is actually the third hand. Another bit of deliberate confusion with languaging as much as anything else. Because the minute hand it sort of represents focusing on the minute details. And an example of this is if you unsubscribe from a channel, just look how many times it will come up on your homepage recommended for you from that channel that you've unsubscribed from, because it is trying to draw you back in to look at something that is external of yourself. And what you will actually find is you start watching a video, the curiosity has drawn you back into it, and those seconds will tick. From those seconds, you will then find the minutes will pass, and before you know it, it is taken hours. Just think of the sense, listen to the sound of the word hours, and how many connotations, how many interpretations has that got, depending on what context you're perceiving it from. It is all wheels within wheels, but there is a fourth, very hidden hand beyond the second hand that goes even quicker. That is the activated chakras when they spin. If you've ever had or taken part in, say, a moon ceremony, for example, and the activation of the chakras, you will get a tingling, or this is my experience, you will get a tingling sensation which will show you exactly where those chakras are, or where they will be placed in the physical body, although they don't have a physicality about them. But those chakras, when they are activated, will spin far quicker than seconds will. And the second hand, it is, as its name implies, it's not something new, it's not something original, it is second hand. It has been passed on from something else or from somebody else. So you're getting second hand information, as it were, with the second hand, and those seconds will just fly by. It will start to eat and steal from your true wealth, your current sea, because there is really only now. But we can sit in that central position of now. We can look back to the past if we wish to see the future. You can do it from chronology, as shown with Archaic's channel. But on a more personal level, or on a more individual level, look back at your own life. All those things you regarded as mistakes were mist-taking. But they will keep being shown to you. So songs are a perfect example, like Life of Brian. Always look on the bright side of life. In that song, he even says, you come into this world with nothing, you leave with nothing. What have you got to lose? Nothing. What you're actually here for is to gather experiences. That is it. You're not here to change the world, but you are here to change the internal world. By changing the internal world inside yourself, will then radiate out into this neutral field, which is very much like the subconscious. It is infinite supply, but what is supplied will be determined by your communication. Are you on a negative polarity? Are you saying things to yourself like, oh, why does this always happen to me? Or are you focusing your attention on creating scenarios in the mind of worst outcomes? But when things do come about, say, for example, you've applied for a new job. So the mind, the conscious mind, will always start worrying about, am I going to get the job or whatever? So your attention and your energy that you're putting in is going to create the very outcome that you least wish for, but because you put so much energy into it, you may get that dreaded letter, I'm sorry, you've been unsuccessful on this occasion. But you can still overwrite that. You can deny what that communication has said. Don't see that. Correct it, overwrite it, and that it says, congratulations, you've got the job. take active steps in the direction you wish to proceed. What invariably can happen is whoever was offered that job will decline it. You may be the next one on the list to offer the job to, and then you may find you actually get that job. But it all depends on what you create in the mind from the external information you have been given. We're in a realm of duality, so your true power is inside yourself to overwrite and correct what the external is presenting to you, so you can use the external to your advantage rather than to your disadvantage. I'd like you also to consider all the implications about this reality of what we'll call them the dark forces, the controllers, whatever you want to name you want to apply to them. What is implied from that they can take anybody out, they can silence anybody, certainly they can take away your channel on YouTube, for example. But if you focus on fear and worry about, oh, I'm going to get a strike or whatever, then whose fault is it really? There are terms and conditions that you've had to agree to be able to use that facility. It is not a public platform. It is a business, after all. So if you have this perception of a system that has this control of everything, why would there be channels allowed to actually give a very different narrative, very different perception of things to the one that is being portrayed on what we can call the mainstream media? But of course, even within the opposition, there is, I'm sure you've heard of the term controlled opposition as well. And this is where discernment really has to come in. How perfect are these videos? How television studio-like are these videos? Or do they come with involuntary sneezes and coughs and things, losing your train of thought, which I often do, because it's very hard to not avoid going off on tangents when talking about anything. But that is not a bad thing, because it's just a reminder to self to stay focused. But there's no problem with going off on tangents. It follows that sort of S shape of that fine line between the yin and the yang, and we can draw on the everyday experiences and use them as metaphors. Just like the applying for a job is a perfect example of that. Yeah, so the life of Brian, going back to that, always look on the bright side of life. It is implying to don't go into the negative default, but look on the be right side of life. So it's giving you the duality. It is also alluding to hand over the control to the right hemisphere. It's the real wedding day that is not just one day, or not a day in the terms of the perception of time as being one day. The wedding day can go for a very long time. It's the alchemical marriage within oneself. So I could say to you that I've got married, but I cannot physically produce the female partner because it's all within. It's a fusion that is counteracting the confusion of this reality. Through that alchemical marriage comes the balance of being able to look objectively at the external and using it in a way that just confirms the internal. I'm just trying to think of some more examples, because there's been such a rapidity of things that just come, that I could spend a lot of time just writing down all these little things. But I rather just let things flow. So there's no notes for this video, for example, and we're already up to the 20 minutes. But yeah, look at the clock face. Consider there are 3 hands shown, but there is also the 4th one with the chakras, because as I've said many times, the 4 is the door. It's an invisible hand. You can see in the external reality the sort of inverse reflection of that. When you get 2 world leaders to come together, there's always this big show made of the handshake, because the minute hand and the second hand are working together but appear to be opposing. So hence you have controlled opposition, you have left and right politics, and so on. It's to keep you caught in the crossfire, to keep you as the pawns on the chessboard. And being a pawn, you've automatically picked a side between the dark chess pieces and the white chess pieces. But take that middle path between the two. Don't pick a side. Don't become a pawn. Recognize them for what they are. But you'll notice that all the major players, those major chess pieces, they are hidden behind lines of pawns. It's something I've mentioned before on video, but I feel it's worth going over again. It's sort of come into the mind. That is this continuous searching for who is they, who is behind all this. Even if you knew the name, you could put a face to the picture, then what? Does that really help? Is it not better to see the blueprints and the mechanism? Likewise with the clock. You can see there are 3 hands. But if you look deeper, or in the case of a pocket watch, you could flip it over and open up the back, and you'll see all the cogs, and you see that they all work in together. So, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter what these elites, these controllers are actually called. It reminds me of a song by Wilco Johnson called Ice on the Motorway. It goes along the lines of, watch out if you think you're going places. People sometimes take you by surprise. If you haven't got 50 different faces, you've got to be a master of disguise. So, who is behind it? Well, the answers are actually given to you. Think of the initials of World Economic Forum. Then flip the initials over, because you're in a photo-negative reality. That tells you there's not many. And you could say it's you know who, if you think of what they stand for. They're just faces of this master of disguise. Now, the sort of chorus part of the song, I'm just trying to remember the lyrics now. Ice on the motorway, you can't go that way. You've just got to work this thing out for yourself. That's effectively it. Work it out for oneself, inside oneself, but also balance that with a certain amount of looking at the external and then weighing it up inside, seeing beyond that superficial surface level of what is going on. Many have this perception, and it is put out as a story, that we are going into a time of an apocalypse, a time of all the negative things. Well, I would say you're actually going into the opposite. in this reality, things are subject to time, so it works like that pendulum. It swings one way then the other. I'm sure you can see that reflected in politics. If you can imagine humanity is being pushed against an elastic band, but that push will be to a certain level, this push back, and then there will be the release. So this is why you get these political swings. You will go from having a blue party in power to having a red party in power, but they are two hands of this same timepiece that is in operation. The thing is to not get caught up in it, to be able to go your own way from it, to be that errant, referencing what Archaic's channel says. Some of you I know will be triggered by that. Well, tough. I would suggest that you go back to the drawing board, move beyond the superficial aspects of it. It's as ridiculous as saying, I'm not watching that channel because I don't like a person's accent or I don't like the way they look. You are doing yourself a huge disservice if you cannot penetrate the deeper meanings and things that are being shown that will actually benefit you. Chronology, which is very much associated with time, is one of those very things. But when you start to see that there is a pendulum that is swinging, that there is three hands to be seen, but there is also a fourth hand at work, that is the good one, that is the benevolent one. It is a hidden hand because it has no physicality. It is connected with this neutral field that we can interact with. You are a co-creator if you can find it inside yourself. Referencing to what True Love Channel says as well, it is finding out the god or goddess that you are, but it's not so much about being able to then put a label of I am Hermes or whatever. It is more to do with the journey, the experience, because that is what you're going to take away from this. These physical bodies are part of this reality. They are finite. So you only have a certain amount of time for the experience. See, time does come into play in this, whether you want to see it in a linear sense or not. But time is there because it is tie me. Everything you give attention to is tying you to something. The me is the magnetism and the electricity inside you, the electrical thoughts and the magnetism of the heart and from the gut, the mother principle and the son principle. And you also have the father principle, which is in pineal. I think that's just about covered everything. There's a lot more I could say. I could go off on so many tangents. A lot of the things I get actually do come through songs and through song lyrics, as an example. Yeah, so I'm just trying to think now. There's one that came into my mind the other day. It's a Beatles, one of the many Beatles songs, Beat L. Beat, you have a rhythmic time, and L refers to Elohim, which is basically the physical body that you find yourself in. We are the Elohim. We are L of him. So when I'm 64, which is not that far away for the physical body, will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64? Well, 6 and 4 is 10. So it's a new beginning. It is 1. That is what is being referenced there. Another song, Yesterday, All My Troubles Seem So Far Away. I believe in yesterday. It's a message to the subconscious, getting you to believe in yesterday as much as anything else, so you can look at your past, the things that you saw as mistakes, and realize they weren't mistakes. And there is infinite supply. from my perspective, that is through song lyrics and through music in particular. The message is coming through, but depending on our level of perception, whether we can decode these things, but once you start seeing them, they just keep coming. You don't have to put any conscious thought into it at all. It will just go bang in your mind. It's like, why didn't I hear this before? Right, we're up to 30 minutes, so I'm going to stop there. I feel there's plenty of little nuggets for you to look at in this and weigh up inside yourselves. And it's another aspect of things on this Fool's Journey course that I could go into a lot more detail about. See, detail, the devil's in the detail, but there's also a need to sort of look at some of these things deeper, which does require looking at the details as well. See, we're in a realm of duality, so there is nothing that is actually all good or all bad as such. It's finding that middle ground, that central path between the two. Hence, I spy with my little eye. Well, generally, most people's eyes are the same size, so it's not referring to the physical eyes, it is referring to the mind's eye. That is the little eye. So, I spy with my little eye something beginning with T. Time. Can you see it? Can you see it for what it really is, not just in the linear sense? Because many will have regrets over the loss of it. They will try and create it. They will try and make it. They will chase after it. And yet it is always there. It comes down purely to our levels of perception. So as always, I'm going to say unconditional love to you all.